This is Angela Wilcox, IB coordinator at Hopkins North Middle School. And over the next few days, students will start to be able to see their overall IB scores in Canvas and Infinite Campus. So, how do we make sense of what that final score in IB means? So, we're going to just talk this through really quickly. What does it mean when you get that final score? So, just a reminder, IB scores give us information about the learning pathway or the learning journey. Everybody starts learning a new skill as a beginner. As you progress and you engage with the learning, you start to dig in more. So when you get to that 3-4 band, that's where you're digging in, making connections, getting support, making sense of things. When you get up to that 5-6 band of mastery, you can use the information to do a variety of things. And if you keep going and become an expert, not only can you use it in a variety of ways, but you can help other people see possibilities and put new ideas together that other people haven't thought of. So we're on a learning journey. The idea behind IB scoring is that we hope that students will get to that 5-6 band by the end of the year. But if they haven't, that's just data. In middle school, it's all about learning how to learn, learning how to focus, learning how to ask for and use the support you have. And so we will keep helping students grow as they go. So if you see an overall score of a 1 or a 2 in a course, what that means is that this student is still learning the basics, like the vocabulary and the basic structures of the subject area. This tells us that students can't yet connect the big ideas, the concepts, to the content they're learning about without a lot of help from their teacher. Often, a score of a 1 or a 2 means you might have missed a lot of class time, or you might have skipped doing the practice and the formative work that would have helped you learn the basics that you need and get feedback to get better. So a 1 or a 2 just tells you I still need to learn the basic skills and knowledge from this subject before I'm ready to move on. And we'll make sure you get to do that. If you end the year with a 3 or a 4 in a course, here's what that tells you. You understand the basics, starting to understand how to use them. As long as the teacher is supporting you, you can add detail, support your thinking with evidence, and make decisions about what's important. You can see how this subject, like art or math or science or English, connects to the concepts we're talking about, as long as the teacher's giving me some tools to help me make those connections. So when you end the year with a 3 or a 4, here's the takeaway. With time and practice, you're on track to be able to understand this subject in more complex ways and see how it shows up in the world. The key for moving from that 3-4 band up to the mastery band, the 5-6 band, is to keep doing the practice in class and the formatives, keep asking questions, and then listen to and use the feedback you get to help you improve your thinking and your communication. If you end the year with a score of a 5 or a 6, that is our goal for students over the course of the year, is to land in that mastery band. So here's what that score means. You've mastered the basics, understand and explain how they're connected to the big ideas, like relationships, identity, systems, patterns that we're exploring. You can come up with questions on your own that help you connect ideas, apply them in real world contexts, and then find evidence to support your thinking without help from the teacher. This is an important life skill, coming up with your own methods for tackling a problem and then having the skill to try things in different ways if your first idea doesn't work. And most importantly, you understand enough to decide what the best pathway forward might be and what you want to learn next. This helps set up students well for moving to the high school, choosing the level of challenge in the courses they're taking at the high school, but also choosing the pathways of study they might take. If you're at that mastery band, you have a lot of information that will help you make those choices well. And finally, if you end the year with a 7 or 8, here's what that tells you. You have a complex understanding of the concepts and how they connect, not just with this content, for example, math, but you can see how the ideas apply to new things I learn. So you might be able to take what you learned in math and apply it to something in music. Identifying pathways for new learning that will help me understand and apply my knowledge in increasingly complex ways. People at that 7-8 band can not only ask for meaningful feedback and come up with questions that are going to be helpful, but they can also give useful feedback and coaching to others who are still learning. This is good information for you as you look at your IB scores. If you're scoring in that 7-8 band, that's a good sign that this is a subject area that you might want to pursue honors level AP or honors courses at the high school, because this is an area of strength for you. So that's kind of an overview of the takeaways from what your final IB score tells you. Now, just a quick reminder, there are 4 criteria that IB uses. It's basically the learning cycle to give us feedback about our learning. Not everybody is equally good at all 4 of these things. So you might be really strong in memorizing vocabulary and learning facts, but you might struggle a little bit more with doing that reflecting and evaluating. How did I do? What would I change? What's a new goal? All of those are important skills. So for the most part, criterion A in all of our subjects is about learning those facts, the vocabulary, and the skills. Criterion B is about going deeper, making plans, doing research, investigating, connecting ideas. Criterion C is where you perform or produce. Write a paper, give a presentation, create a solar oven. And criterion D is almost always about reflecting and applying. So how did I do? What does it mean? What would I do next? You're going to get a score in each of those 4 criterion for every course that you're part of, an overall end of the year score for criterion A, for B, for C, and for D. So that might look like this. You had 5s in criterion A and B, you had a 6 in criterion C, and a 4 in criterion D. There is a formula that teachers use then that's provided. It's an internationally normed formula that helps us come up with that overall IB score. Overall scores for the course are on a scale of 1 through 7. So the highest score you can get for an IB course is a 7. And you can always check in with me, Angela Wilcox, if you have questions about your child's overall score. All right, so really quickly, should you worry if your scholar didn't reach mastery, that 5-6 band, or if you didn't reach mastery by the end of the year? So very clearly, no, you should not worry, but it is a good time to ask some questions. So here's some sample questions that you as a family might talk about based on your child's IB score, especially if it's in that 1, 2, or 3, 4 band. Tell me what parts of this class were harder. Look at what the overall criterion score, like it looks like you didn't turn in very much work for criterion C. Let's talk about like what's easy and hard for you about creating a product. Another question you might ask is, do you think you did enough practice and tried hard on all of the formative assessments so you knew how to improve? Were you able to get enough feedback from the work you did to keep learning? And then building on that, what feedback did you get from your teacher that might help you next year? So if your teacher said support with more evidence, examples, and details, which is very often what feedback sounds like, you might know at the start of next year, that's something I really want to focus on to raise my scores. Is there anything you want to try differently next year that might help raise your scores? That might be skill-wise, but that also might be, I know that I can't sit next to this person in my math class because we distract each other. So what are the many different kinds of things you might try next year to help yourself get and stay on track? And then this is a really important question to ask yourself and for adults and kids to talk about with each other. Is there anything you need from the adults around you at school or at home that you think might help? One of the powerful things about IB scores compared to other kinds of grading systems is that this really mirrors the way that most adults in the workplace get feedback. It's much more based on targets and growth areas, identifying what's working well, doing a lot of reflecting and analyzing and setting new goals, rather than just adding up points and then averaging them to come up with a grade. And so, what we want and hope is talk about, what does feedback look like when you're an adult? How does that kind of learning work in whatever kind of work you do? How do you know whether or not you're successful? How do people around you give you feedback? How can really digging into your IB scores give you information that helps you keep learning? So, setting up that mindset that this is lifelong learning, getting feedback and acting on it is how people learn for the rest of their lives. If you have questions, please reach out to me by email, Angela Wilcox. I would be happy to respond to you by email or to set up a time to speak. Otherwise, we are so grateful that we get to work with your families, and we're looking forward to another great year next year.